Internal Memorandum, Kola Superdeep Borehole Project, SG3. Classification, Restricted. Acoustic Research Division, September 14th, 1992. Drilling operations suspended. Reason stated in official report. Temperatures at 12-kilometer depth exceeded design parameters. Reason in this document: sensors at the borehole's lower terminus recorded a structured acoustic signal. The signal is not geological. The signal is mechanical. The signal repeats at an interval of 11 seconds. We suspended drilling because something below was responding to each drill strike, and doing so before the strike reached the bottom.
Borehole SG3 was officially closed in 1992 after 22 years of drilling, having reached 12,262 meters, the deepest point ever penetrated by human technology. The official reasons given: excessive heat at depth, equipment failure, the collapse of the Soviet Union's funding for large science programs. All of these are real. All of these contributed. None of them are why drilling stopped when it stopped. I found this file through a geophysical research registry I was systematizing for an institutional inventory of Soviet deep earth science programs. SG3 appeared with double documentation: the official drilling log, which has been partially published and studied by geologists for 30 years, and a parallel acoustic research log, classified above geophysical research level, beginning in 1984, the year the drill reached 10 kilometers. Not when drilling started in 1970, when it got close enough. Nothing personal. A classified parallel log for a published scientific program, starting at a specific depth rather than a specific date. Logs that begin at specific depths rather than specific dates are keeping track of something that happens at depth. The Kola Superdeep borehole was the Soviet Union's contribution to the scientific competition to understand the deep structure of the Earth's crust. The project's genuine scientific achievements are substantial and real. It overturned assumptions about the transition between granite and basalt layers, found unexpected water at extreme depth, recovered core samples that reshaped understanding of Precambrian geology. The scientists who worked on it were real scientists doing real science. The acoustic log ran in parallel with all of it, and none of the project's published scientific output mentions it. In the Soviet Union, classified research ran alongside public science. Every discovery was monitored, every anomaly reported. There was no such thing as private data. Today, your internet activity is constantly tracked by corporations and governments. NordVPN encrypts your connection and hides your IP address, keeping your data private from anyone trying to monitor you. Check the link in the pinned comment for an exclusive deal on NordVPN. The acoustic monitoring program was established in 1984, when the drill crossed 10 kilometers. The program's chief acoustician was Dr. Pavel Severtsev, 52 years old, from the Institute of Earth Physics in Moscow. He had spent his career analyzing acoustic signatures in deep geological formations, the specific sounds that rock makes under pressure, the acoustic fingerprints of different mineral compositions. He knew what deep rock sounds like. He was at Kola because something was sounding like something else. His log from October 1984, 2 months after the monitoring program began. Severtsev's report continued with a detailed documentation of his findings.
I want to document the finding that prompted my request for linguistic consultation, because the finding is specific, and the specificity is what makes it significant rather than anomalous. We have been recording acoustic events in the borehole continuously since August. The geological events are as expected: thermal expansion cracking, fluid movement in the rock matrix, the standard acoustic profile of granite under extreme pressure. These are not what I'm documenting. In parallel with the geological acoustic profile, we are recording a second set of events that do not fit the geological model. The second set has the following characteristics. First, it is periodic. The events occur at intervals of approximately 11.3 seconds, consistently, with a variance of less than 0.4 seconds across the 8 weeks of recording. Natural geological acoustic events are not periodic at this regularity. Second, the amplitude pattern within each event is structured, not a simple pulse, a shaped signal with a specific internal architecture that repeats identically across events. Again, geological events do not have internal architecture that repeats identically. Third, and this is the characteristic that required me to request a linguist, the structured events respond to drill operations. When the drill is operating, the events continue at 11.3 second intervals. When the drill strikes the rock face, there is an additional event. The additional event precedes the drill strike by 0.3 seconds. The signal from below arrives before the cause that, if this were echo or resonance, would produce it. Resonance cannot precede its cause. Something below the drill tip is producing a signal 0.3 seconds before the drill makes contact. This means the source of the signal is not responding to the drill. The source of the signal knows the drill is coming.
The source of the signal knows the drill is coming. A geophysicist writing in a monitoring log, in language he chose because no other language fit what he had observed. The acoustic signal from below the drill tip predicted the drill's arrival rather than responding to it. Not echo, not resonance, anticipation. The linguistic consultant was Dr. Anna Gromova, 47 years old, from the Institute of Linguistics in Moscow. She had been brought in because Severtsev's request specified a specialist in the structural analysis of non-semantic signal systems, the analysis of signals that have linguistic organization without necessarily having linguistic content. She was not asked to translate. She was asked to determine whether what was coming from 12 kilometers underground had structure in the linguistic sense. She spent 4 months on the acoustic records before reporting. Her report was filed in March 1985, and the program director read it and called Moscow. The telephone record from March 22, 1985, is in the program file as part of the standard communications log.
Director, I am calling to report a finding from the linguistic analysis of the borehole acoustic data that requires immediate discussion. Moscow, proceed. Director, Dr. Gromova has completed her preliminary analysis. Her conclusion is that the acoustic signal has organizational properties consistent with a structured communication protocol, not a language in the sense of conveying semantic content that she can interpret. A protocol. She describes it as, her words, a technical access request protocol, a standardized sequence that functions the way a specific knock functions on a secured door. It does not say anything. It requests something. The structure of the request is consistent across all 612 classified events in the acoustic log. It is always the same request. Moscow. What is being requested? Passage. Her analysis indicates the signal structure is consistent with a request for vertical passage through the crust. She cannot translate it in the sense of providing content. The signal does not have content in that sense. She can characterize its function. Its function is a request to continue drilling. They know we are drilling. The signal is asking us to continue. What is the current depth? 12,066 meters. By our geological models, the lower boundary of the crust in this region is at approximately 16 kilometers. We are approximately 4 kilometers from whatever is on the other side. 4 kilometers. At current penetration rates, assuming we could maintain them, which is increasingly difficult due to temperature, approximately 8 to 12 years of additional drilling, and the signal began when we reached 10 kilometers. Yes, they waited until we were close enough to hear. That appears to be the implication, yes. Continue drilling. Do not respond to the signal. Do not attempt to modify drilling patterns in response to the signal. Treat the acoustic program as a monitoring program only. Do not share Gromova's analysis outside this channel. Do not stop drilling.
Continue drilling. Moscow's instruction was to continue. The drilling continued for 7 more years, to 12,262 meters before it stopped. The official reasons are real. The temperatures were excessive. The equipment was failing. The Soviet Union was dissolving. These things are all true. They are also, in the program file, listed alongside an internal memorandum dated the same day as the official closure order. Drilling, suspended by committee decision. Continuation would constitute compliance with the request. Decision. The request will not be fulfilled. 2 closure documents, same date. One describes technical and administrative factors. The other records a decision. We were asked to do something and we chose not to do it. Now, I need to tell you what I was wrong about. I assumed the acoustic signal was a response, that something below had detected the approaching drill and had begun to communicate because we were getting close. This framing places us as the initiating party and whatever is below as the respondent. I was wrong about the timeline. The acoustic log begins in 1984. The SG-3 project began in 1970. The drill operated for 14 years before the acoustic program was established, because for 14 years there was nothing to monitor. The signal did not begin when we started drilling. It began when we reached 10 kilometers. It had a threshold. Below 10 kilometers, whatever is below began to be aware of us, or began to be close enough that we could be aware of it. We did not approach something that noticed us. Something below was already there, already producing a signal we could not yet detect, and when the drill crossed a specific depth, that signal entered our range. The encounter was not initiated by the drilling. The drilling was the means by which we came into range of something that was already transmitting. The question of how long it had been transmitting before we arrived at 10 kilometers is not answerable from the program file. The file contains 8 years of records, from 1984 to 1992. It does not contain the records of whatever was happening at that depth before we were close enough to hear it. Here's the first contradiction. The official drilling log for SG3 published, studied, the geological record of 22 years of deep earth research. Documents acoustic events in the borehole as geological, thermal cracking, fluid migration, rock fracture under pressure. These are standard phenomena in deep boreholes. The log's acoustic entries are consistent with what geophysics expects to find in deep granite under extreme conditions. The log is accurate. The events it describes are real. The parallel acoustic research log documents 847 acoustic events over the same period. Of these, 235 are consistent with the geological model described in the official log. The remaining 612 are classified in the acoustic log as structurally repetitive, non-geological in origin. The official log and the acoustic log were recorded simultaneously from the same sensors in the same borehole. They described the same physical environment. One describes a geologically normal acoustic profile. The other describes 612 events that are not in the geological profile. Both logs are real. The 612 events are in neither the published record nor the standard geological interpretation. They are in a parallel document that ran alongside the official science for 8 years. Here's the second contradiction. The program's geophysical team, the scientists working on the official drilling project, analyzed acoustic events in the borehole as part of their standard research protocol. Their analysis of a specific event from November 1987, selected for detailed study because of its unusual amplitude, concluded,
rock resonance artifact, consistent with thermal stress fracturing in the granite matrix at depth.
Standard interpretation, geophysically unremarkable. The analysis is technically sound within the framework the geophysical team was using. The Acoustic Research Program's analysis of the same event, conducted independently on the same data, concluded,
the event precedes the drill contact by 0.3 seconds. The waveform internal architecture matches the 11.3 second periodic events classified as structured, and the event cannot be a resonance artifact because resonance requires a prior cause, and this event has no detectable prior cause in the borehole record.
Same sensor data, same event. One analysis produces a geological artifact. The other produces a signal that preceded its supposed cause by 0.3 seconds. The geophysical team's framework doesn't permit signals that precede their causes, so it found a framework that didn't require that. The acoustic team's framework permits what the data shows, and the data shows anticipation. Here is the third contradiction, the document that should not exist. The official SG3 closure order, dated September 1992, cites 3 reasons for cessation: thermal conditions exceeding design parameters, irreparable equipment failure in the drill string, and budgetary discontinuation following the Soviet Union's dissolution. All 3 are documented in the official record. All 3 are real. The closure order is the last entry in the official drilling log. In the program file on the same date is an internal committee memorandum.
Drilling suspended pending review of Gromova protocol findings. Continuation of drilling to the lower crust boundary would constitute a unilateral response to an uncharacterized external request. The committee has determined that no response should be made until the nature and origin of the request are understood. Drilling will not resume until that determination is made.
2 documents, same date. One says the drill stopped because of heat and broken equipment and no money. The other says the drill stopped because the committee decided not to open a door it did not understand. Both are in the same file folder. The committee's determination has apparently not been made. There is no subsequent document in the file indicating that the nature and origin of the request were understood, or that the committee reconvened, or that drilling was ever considered for resumption. The geophysical registry that led me to this file contains a passive monitoring record for the closed borehole site. Standard practice for decommissioned deep drill sites, tracking any ongoing geological activity. The monitoring record runs from 1992 through 2005. The final entry, from 2005, is a technical notation. Acoustic character of borehole changed. Prior to January 2005, periodic signal, 11.3 second interval, consistent with previous 8 years of recording. From January 2005, continuous signal, no interval. The 11.3 second rhythm stopped. The continuous signal began. 8 years of periodic knocking, then silence for 13 years, then something that does not pause. I searched the registry for records after 2005. I found one, not in the geophysical registry, but in the seismic monitoring database for the Kola Peninsula region. A 2009 entry documenting a series of micro-seismic events. The epicenter of the event series coincides with the coordinates of SG3. The focal depth, 12 to 13 kilometers. The characterization in the seismic notation, non-tectonic. Non-tectonic micro-seismic events at 12 to 13 kilometer depth, at the coordinates of the deepest borehole ever drilled. 4 kilometers above whatever was sending the signal. The events are not geological movement. They are something else at that depth, producing seismic energy of a type that the monitoring system flagged as inconsistent with any known geological process. The committee decided in 1992 not to open the door. The committee's decision was to stop drilling 4 kilometers short of whatever was below, and to make no response to the request. 13 years after that decision, the periodic signal changed to continuous. 4 years after that, micro-seismic events of non-tectonic origin appeared at 12 to 13 kilometers, above where the signal had been coming from, below where the drill stopped. Something has moved upward since 1992. Not to the surface, not close to the surface, but closer than it was. I am going to close this file. I am going to note the geophysical registry cross-reference as reviewed. I am going to log my access. The false bottom of this case is the timeline. I had it backwards. I thought the signal was a response to the drill. The drill got close enough to hear a signal that was already there, and when the signal changed, when it shifted from periodic to continuous in 2005, when the micro-seismic events appeared in 2009, it was not because we got closer, it was because we stopped. We stopped 4 kilometers short of something that had been asking us to continue. We stopped for 13 years, and then the asking changed, and then something started moving in the direction we had been drilling from. The committee's reasoning was sound. Do not respond to an uncharacterized external request until you understand its nature. The committee's reasoning assumed that not responding was neutral, that stopping was a stable state. The 2005 acoustic change and the 2009 micro-seismic events suggest it was not neutral. It was an answer, We answered no by stopping. Something received that answer and responded to it. The borehole is there. The site is decommissioned. The monitoring that produced the 2009 seismic entry has apparently not produced further entries in any registry I can access. I do not know if the monitoring continues without documentation, or if it stopped, or if subsequent entries are classified above my access level. I know the signal changed from periodic to continuous in January 2005. I know non-tectonic events appeared at 12 to 13 kilometers in 2009. I know we are 4 kilometers away from whatever asked us to keep going. I am closing the folder,